ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. The Nigerian government frees over 4,000 prisoners as the working group of the legal status of inmates laments the lack of support.
The working group found that an alarming high number of inmates in the custodial centers under review were without legal representation. So although the Legal Aid Council of Nigeria is mandated to provide free legal services to inmates without legal representation, it is presently under-resourced.
WHO reiterates its commitment to support Ghana's nutrition services nationwide. Authority in Senegal set to build its first gold refinery plant to boost the nation's economy. And tension rises in Côte d'Ivoire over the exclusion of key opposition leaders from the electoral list ahead of October's poll.
I think it's normal because the pursuit of these people is always based on people who have always pushed to win their cause through the streets, by taking to the streets through street demonstrations.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners within and outside the sub-region. Tonight, Newslink opens in Nigeria with this major announcement by the federal government that more than 4,000 prisoners locked up for minor offenses have now been released. Nigeria's Minister of Interior, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, made disclosure at a ministerial briefing. According to the cabinet official, this measure, which was taken to reduce overcrowding in prison, has saved the government 1 billion naira, or an estimated $650,000 of feeding cost. WADR's Usman Umar reports.
Nigerian Interior Minister Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo announced that the federal government has released more than 4,000 inmates from its prisons as part of its efforts to reduce overcrowding, saving 1 billion naira or $650,000 in food costs. At the 5th Ministerial Press Conference in Abuja on Thursday, Tunji-Ojo explained that this measure had helped identify many prisoners incarcerated for minor offenses, facilitating their prompt release. Their release, he said, followed a thorough analysis revealing that the prisoners were incarcerated for minor fines. A case reiterated by Olawale Fakbonda, facilitator of the working group on the legal status of inmates.
Several inmates continue to be kept in detention for longer periods than the maximum period of imprisonment prescribed for the offenses because they do not have legal representation. The working group found that an alarming high number of inmates in the custodial centers under review were without legal representation. The Honorable Attorney General of the Federation is invited to note that although the Legal Aid Council of Nigeria is mandated to provide free legal services to inmates without legal representation, it is presently under-resourced and thus barely able to make a significant difference.
While the working group was assured of funding to provide legal services to inmates, the minister also reported that in 2024, the Commander General's Special Intelligence Squad had dismantled more than 2,125 illegal oil refineries and dumps across the country. The Nigerian Interior Minister said the squad secured 345 convictions, while another 187 cases are still pending in courts. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Meanwhile, Ghana has received assurances from the World Health Organization (WHO) to improve nutrition services in the country. The UN Health Agency said it will achieve this goal by supporting the adaptation and distribution of printed copies of the revised Essential Nutrition Actions Package. This initiative, in collaboration with the Ghana Health Service, DHS, and other partners, aims to equip frontline health workers with necessary tools to implement comprehensive nutrition interventions at the primary health care (PHC) level. From Accra, Nadiri Tete reports.
The revised Essential Nutrition Actions (ENA's) package is a key component of Ghana's Universal Health Coverage (UHC) strategy, aligning with the country's 2020 to 2030 UHC roadmap, which prioritizes public health coverage as a foundation for improving healthcare services. The updated package follows a life course approach addressing nutrition needs at critical stages, from pregnancy through childhood, adolescence, and adulthood, to combat malnutrition in all its forms. Since 2014, Ghana has implemented 7 ENAs focusing on pregnant and lactating women and children under 5. However, the revised package expands interventions to 58 evidence-based actions tackling emerging nutrition challenges such as childhood obesity and the long-term effects of poor nutrition. The updates align with the 2019 Global WHO ENAs framework and national health policies. Speaking on the significance of the initiative, Dr. Frank Lule, officer in charge of WHO Ghana, said nutrition is a critical pillar of health, and ensuring that healthcare providers have access to updated resources is essential for improving service delivery. He noted that the revised package will help health workers deliver quality nutrition services across the country. Receiving the materials on behalf of the Ghana Health Service, Madam Olivia Maunyo Timpo, Deputy Director of Nutrition at the Family Health Division, expressed gratitude for the WHO's continued support. She stated that the provision of these materials will enhance the capacity of health workers and ensure that nutrition services are effectively integrated into primary healthcare delivery. She also acknowledged UNICEF and the academic community for their contributions to the adaptation of the document. The printed ENA's material contained detailed intervention guidelines, training resources, and standardized protocols to enhance implementation across healthcare facilities. These resources will support frontline health workers in providing quality nutrition services to communities as part of a coordinated multi-sectoral approach. Through initiatives like this, WHO and the Ghana Health Service continue to collaborate to strengthen Ghana's health security and ensure that nutrition services remain a core pillar of the country's journey towards universal health coverage.
WADR's Nadia Tete with that report. Now we remain in Ghana because a series of measures have been announced to tackle the menace of illegal mining activities across the country. Announcing these actions, Ghana's Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Ama Kofi-Boa, stated that all mining licenses issued after December 7, 2024 have been revoked. The Mahama-led government proceeded to launch what it called the Water Initiative, an initiative designed to restore polluted water bodies. However, opinions on the government's approach remain divided. Environmental advocacy group Eco-Conscious Citizens is advocating for a complete ban on illegal mining, while Arocha Ghana questions the effectiveness of the Blue Water Initiative, arguing that it may not be a strategic solution to the deep-rooted problem of Galamsey. Aula Sewa is Executive Director of Eco-Conscious Ghana.
It's a step in the right direction. There's no doubt about that. Whether it's enough is another matter. We're very cautious. I'll give you an example. When in opposition, His Excellency the President said he will repeal the law that allows mining in forest reserves, LI 2462. And what happened yesterday was an attempt to amend sections of LI 2462. And that is not what we asked for.
Aula Sewa, the Executive Director of Eco-Conscious Ghana.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Remember, we're streaming live on wadr.org. Here in Senegal, President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has received the 2023 to 2024 report from the Ombudsman of the Republic. Presented on Thursday, the document highlights several recommendations concerning justice, land reforms, and improvement of the quality of public service. The report also addresses major issues related to the rule of law as well as strategies to ensure fairness and trust in the judicial system. The Ombudsman report, however, came through with recommendations notably improving detention conditions, advancing land reform, and enhancing road safety. The Senegalese head of state, upon receipt of the document, pledged to implement these recommendations. Francis Boniface tells us more.
The 2023-2024 report addresses major issues related to the rule of law, as well as strategies to ensure fairness and trust in the judicial system, according to Demba Kanji, the Ombudsman of the Republic.
The Mediator of the Republic, a singular institution embodied by an independent authority, has a power to propose, recommend, suggest, and investigate. This report that I have the honor to present to you, Mr. President of the Republic, testifies to the concerns and expectations of our fellow citizens, the challenges encountered, and the progress made throughout the past period. It is subdivided into 4 parts: the main process, national activities, international cooperation, and perspectives.
The document outlines several recommendations, notably to improve detention conditions, advance land reform, and enhance road safety. This report has been praised by President Bassirou Diomaye Faye.
I have also noted several concrete proposals that commit our administration at various levels. These include the implementation of judicial decisions, good governance, the inclusion of associations in decision-making, the humanization of detention, improvements in public service quality, financial reform, and road safety.
The Senegalese head of state emphasized the importance of effectively implementing these recommendations.
Boniface reporting there. Meanwhile, Senegal will soon be equipped with a gold refinery. This announcement was made by the Senegal Mines Corporation in partnership with FONSIS, the Sovereign Fund for Strategic Investments. This marks the country's first gold refining plant poised to boost local economy. Away from Senegal to Côte d'Ivoire, political tensions are beginning to escalate 7 months before the presidential election. Several opposition political party leaders are not included on the just published electoral roll and are therefore ineligible. This is the case for former President Laurent Gbagbo, a declared candidate for the PPACI, and Charles Blé Goudé, a former Minister of Youth Affairs and declared candidate for the COJAP. The Ivorian political opposition fears that the country is heading towards a non-inclusive presidential election. It also calls on its supporters to mobilize against the measure. Here is Noureddin Oyewole, an Ivorian political analyst.
Je pense que c'est normal, parce que le profil de ces personnes, ce sont des gens qui ont toujours...
I think it's normal because the pursuit of these people is always based on people who have always pushed to win their cause through the streets, by taking to the streets through street demonstrations. This has always characterized the Ivorian left from which they come. Today, by saying it, I think they've even held back. So, this is the final blow for them, asking their activists to mobilize for the sake of public order. Now, hasn't the situation changed? Are the activists who used to come out, who were young almost 15 years ago, are those who were 15 or even 20 now 35, having other attacks whipped up? Will this call really be expected? Because the young people we have today aren't sufficiently politicized, even if social media allows them to get informed. They don't have the activist culture that those before them had. So these are questions. And so in the coming days, let's see if this call will truly be heard by the population. It's true that in the language of politicians in Côte d'Ivoire today, it's all about the opposition. They are ratcheting up the pressure to win their case. But really, when we look at the environment, the Ivorian population, because as we always say, the population has to be determined to follow the slogans for there to be violence. Today, with the crisis that Ivorians as a whole are going through, there is a bit of restraint. No one is ready to relieve their difficulties, the difficulties we experience.
Personne n'est prêt à revivre les difficultés, les années chaudes que nous avons connues.
Noureddin Oyewole, an Ivorian political analyst, providing an insight into the rising political tension in Côte d'Ivoire months before the October 2025 presidential elections. And now to the Sahel, the Malian National Human Rights Commission is sounding an alarm over increased violations of fundamental rights and freedoms in the country. This notice comes amid a surging number of arrests of individuals critical of the ruling military. As Simo Edet reports, the Human Rights Body strongly condemns any form of illegal restriction.
The National Human Rights Commission has voiced its apprehension regarding the threats to freedom of opinion and expression in the country. Relying on several legal frameworks, including the new constitution and the transitional charter. The CNDH is urging the authorities to respect individuals' rights and freedoms. The Human Rights Organization underlines that freedom of opinion and expression are, and I quote, rights that cannot be subject to unlawful restrictions, end of quote. Furthermore, the National Human Rights Commission condemns any act that infringes on the freedoms of opinion, expression, or association. It calls for adherence to Mali's international commitments on human rights. The statement by the National Human Rights Commission comes in the context of heightened restrictions on freedoms in the country. For months, voices have been raised to denounce pressure on public figures. The disappearance of Aliyu Badra Sako, a civil society member, on March 14 in Bamako is cited as an example. Although the CNDH does not explicitly reference this case in a statement, its message comes at a time when national and international organizations are questioning the situation of human rights defenders in Mali. In response to the situation, the CNDH urges citizens to exercise restraint and foster social cohesion to avoid public unrest.
Imo Edet filed that report. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. The Nigerian government frees over 4,000 prisoners as a working group of the legal status of inmates lament the lack of support. WHO reiterates its commitment to support Ghana's nutrition services nationwide. Authority in Senegal set to build its first gold refinery plant to boost the economy. Tensions rises in Côte d'Ivoire over the exclusion of key opposition leaders from the electoral list ahead of October's polls. Still ahead in the news, IOM's 2024 report reveals a surge in irregular migration trend, including deaths. We also have the guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Many thanks for staying with us. The United Nations Migration Agency, IOM, this Friday published its report on the recent trend of irregular migration across the world. This document reveals a record death toll of nearly 9,000 people killed on migratory routes last year. The International Organization for Migration, IOM, says this figure demonstrates an upward trend in deaths linked to irregular migration. Let's join Christopher Ticho for more details.
This is a tragic toll, according to the International Organization for Migration. These 8,938 migrants all lost their lives along the migratory routes. The IOM warns of a continued upward trend in death over the past 5 years, surpassing the previous record of 8,747 deaths in 2023. The most affected regions are Asia, with 2,778 deaths, Africa with 2,242 deaths, and Europe with 223 deaths. Violence against migrants is one of the causes of death. In 2024, nearly 10% of deaths were linked to acts of violence, mainly in South and Southeastern Asia, where nearly 6,000 people lost their lives due to conflict or violent attacks. The Mediterranean remains one of the most dangerous roads, with 2,452 deaths recorded. The International Organization for Migration emphasizes the need to improve search and rescue systems and create safe and regular migration routes to prevent such tragedies.
Christopher Ticho reporting there. Elsewhere on the continent, Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah, Namibia's first female president, took her oath of office today, Friday, March 21 in Windhoek. The transition coincided with the country's independence anniversary. The 72-year-old, nicknamed NNN, has vowed to diversify the economy and fight unemployment. Her SWAPO party, which has ruled the country of about 3 million people for over 3 decades, won both the presidential and parliamentary elections in November last year. Nandi Ndaitwah, who previously served as vice president, won 58% of the vote.
My inauguration today is taking place against the backdrop of solid foundation that was laid by my predecessors. The task facing me as the 5th president of the Republic of Namibia is to preserve the gains of our independence on all fronts and to ensure that unfinished agenda of economic and social advancement of our people is carried forward with vigor and determination to bring about a shared balanced prosperity for all. The mandate that the electorate gave to the SWAPO party under my leadership is clearly articulated in the SWAPO party election manifesto 2025 to 2030, the SWAPO party political program, and the Constitution of the Republic of Namibia. Those will be my guiding instrument throughout my presidency as I serve all people of Namibia regardless of their political affiliation. I have been an advocate for equality between men and women. I believe that it's not good for a society to underplay the role that one segment of the population can play in the social, political, and economic fiber of our society.
The newly installed Namibian president is the latest in the list of women to hold the presidency in Africa. Others include Ellen Sirleaf Johnson of Liberia, Joyce Banda of Malawi, and Samia Suluhu Hassan of Tanzania. Sirleaf and Banda, now former leaders of their countries, and Tanzania's current president, Hassan, all attended Nandi Ndaitwah's inauguration.
Politics,
analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
We return to Ghana, where the country's Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Ama Kofi Boa, has announced a series of measures aimed at curbing the country's illegal mining crisis. Among them is the revocation of all mining licenses issued after December 7, 2024, as well as the launch of the flagship Blue Water Initiative, a government-led effort to restore polluted water bodies. However, opinions on the government's approach remain divided. Eoman Manye is a Ghanaian farmer and one of the lead campaigners against illegal mining in the country. She speaks in reaction to the new measures being announced by the government.
Thank you very much. I think that the time has come for stakeholders, especially government who carries the mantle to handle the affairs of the country, to step out of the office and walk the talk. Galamsey menace has not started today, but previous government, according to them, had made attempts to tackle the menace. But what do we see? The case has worsened. So giving the chance to this current party, New Democratic Congress, to lead the country, everybody have higher expectations of them. So for the plans that they have rolled out, or the initiative they've rolled out to make sure they tackle the Galamsey issue, is something that we are all excited about. But my brother, one thing that has to do with Africa, not just Ghana, is about implementation to the latter. We have heard the announcement. We've seen the press conferences. But what we are expecting as a stakeholder in youth and agriculture, advocating for youth to go into agriculture, we need fertile lands to farm. So my expectation is that beyond these measures, let the action speak for itself. That is what we are looking at. Monitoring and actions be taken, not just speak, call press conferences and not step out to the field to get the work done.
With regards to the revocation of all mining licenses issued after December 7, 2024, followed by the government's launch of a flagship Blue Water Initiative which seeks to restore polluted water bodies, don't you see the effectiveness of such measure to help curb the issue of Galamsey in the country?
That initiative is a very laudable one. Now, the previous government that has awarded these certificates or these licenses to people to mine heard our cry. I was among one of the young people who stepped out on the streets of Accra to protest against illegal mining in the waters, in our forest reserves, and other things, because I eat, I farm. And so for them revocating, I think it's in the right direction because the government that gave these lines knew that we were protected. So I don't know the logic behind giving such huge, number of licenses before stepping out of office, or the many solutions to clean the waters or to get the waters clean than it is polluted now. I would rather suggest that we strengthen collaboration and partnership with traditional authorities, including the citizens in these communities that their mining is happening, municipal chief executive, district chief executives, because minister is at a city. Minister will only get to know what is happening when a call is placed to him or when he make a trip or a tour to the regions. And so if you want to get this blue water initiative very active and well implemented, then they have to collaborate.
Ayoman Maye is a Ghanaian farmer and one of the lead campaigners against illegal mining in Ghana. In the world of sports, the 2026 FIFA World Cup in Africa continues with Nigeria moving up one step in their group. Well, our sports anchor Sankule Janko is in the studios with more details. Sankule.
Yes, Abdullahi. Good evening. Let's give you the latest update in sports. Just like you said, of course, in the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers in Africa, because star player Victor Osimhen inspired the Super Eagles to a 2-0 victory against Rwanda in Kigali this evening. The forward put Nigeria ahead after tap-in following a cross from Victor Simon. Osimhen doubled the lead before the break to earn the Super Eagles the much-needed points. This was a much-needed victory for the Super Eagles, because if they had not won, I'm sorry for them, but it's good that they've collected the 3 points.
Very well. And you said tap-in as if Osimhen was a light play for him.
No, it's not a light play. This is football in terms. A tap-in means, somebody crossed the ball, he hit it with his inner foot.
So that's an easy win, right?
No, it's not an easy win. It was a hard-fought victory, actually, because, it was the Super Eagles were playing 10-man against, of course, Rwanda, because the stadium was jam-packed. Even Paul Kagame was in the stadium to cheer on the Rwandese. But unfortunately, the Super Eagles collected the 3 points. They showed their power.
So they are up one step in that
Yes,
group.
they are. They are up one step because they are now in second with 6 points. If things continue like this, it will be good for Nigeria. But there are other results as well, of course, Abdullah, in the 2026 FIFA World Cup in Africa. Burkina Faso, for example, defeated Djibouti 4-1. DR Congo also beat South Sudan 1-0. South Africa were 2-0 winners against Lesotho. Botswana were beaten by Algeria 3-1. Equatorial Guinea won 2-0 against Sao Tome and Principe. And tonight, guess what? Reigning champions Cote d'Ivoire will take on Burundi, and Ghana are playing against the Black Stars of Ghana.
Amazing. But I really love that two clubs here are really making progress, Burkina Faso and DRC. Considering the current political and security context of these two nations, perhaps they will need this victory to once again reignite or renew their hope.
You're right about that. In fact, that's one beautiful thing about football. It brings the country together. As during this, 2 hours of 45-minute 2 hours of football, they'll forget about everything else. All that matters is to see the national colours. They'll be cheering on their players as if nothing else is happening. That's the beauty of football.
Well, I hope this brings them lasting peace.
I hope so too, brother.
Thank you very much, Sankule. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Madu Diouf, Mamkodu Injaifai, and Umu Daniego for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR English, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is WADR's Security and Governance Program in the Sahel. I'm Abdullahi Hassan. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0.